Welcome to the Daytona Supercross pregame show on BigMX Radio here live on YouTube. I am your host, Brad Gebhart. With me on the line, two of my best buds within the motocross industry. We battle tooth and nail every single Thursday night here on 8 p.m. Central Time. First, I have to introduce the 1990 East Coast 125 Supercross champion, goes by the name of Denny Stevenson. Denny, how's it going?
Good, Brad. Good to see you. Missed you guys last week. Had some stuff happening, but I had the chance to go to Dallas, watch it live, and now we get to talk about more Supercross with two of my buds. So I'm looking forward to it. And we brought Checkers back from Mexico, so welcome back, Checkers.
Yes, Checkers is tanned and still smiling ear to ear from his beach riding and hard enduro, and basically showing a pretty well appointed Honda who's boss. Checkers, welcome back to the show.
Heck yeah, Mexico was sick and I had a great time. And I just want to let you guys know, I'm going to warn you ahead of time that I've been pretty much outside the loop of cell phone service or anything for a week. That means that I have not been harassing Denny at all. He missed the show last week for some personal things. I have barely heard about his trip to Dallas even. So I have a lot of bent up frustrations and time to prove Denny wrong over and over and over again tonight, baby. It's going to be on. Let's get going with the Race Tech Rapid Recap. It was a great race. I finally watched it today earlier, actually. I landed last night late, and I saw highlights and stuff from Mexico and watched some times, but I was pretty disconnected from the world up here in the States and in the stadiums. So it was pretty fun to watch, and unfortunately, the track kind of sucked and was one line and stuff, and it was probably one of the least eventful Triple Crowns until the very last kind of ending races with some crashes. But let's get into some headlines. Brad, thank you very much for putting together all this stuff this week. Tomac coughs up the lead and allows an 8-point swing. Debo, Alito Mac poking his head out again.
You know, yeah, it was to watch it live. There was just so much carnage, so much going on, guys going down. To Eli being one of them, I really didn't expect that. I thought his mental strength is what would carry him to his championship, along with his speed. And like he said, in a couple of weeks, he is, or in 1 week, he gave a lot of points. And Webb and Sexton are coming on strong. And as Ricky Carmichael says, Daytona is the turning point, and we're headed into it this weekend.
Absolutely. And then an ongoing one that we've been talking about on this show, had to go right towards the top of the headlines, has been the brutal AJ Catanzaro versus Hardy Munoz battle that hasn't been much of a battle all year. But guess what? Hardy came out in Hardy form last weekend in Arlington. And guess what? The cat AJ Catanzaro did take his number. It says Munoz is chilling in the dirt and gets smoked by Hicks. Well, he got smoked by Hicks literally, and I think I have a video I could show you guys of that if you need a reminder maybe of what that was like. And then also AJ Catanzaro beats him in the results. So ha, baby.
Yeah, I actually missed it live. It's, you know, when you're up in the stands, there's so much going on. I was asked by somebody, Ian Riley, our friend who drafted him, and yeah, he got plowed. And yeah, Hardy lived up to being Hardy because he got smoked.
Yeah, dude. And how
absolutely no, he got absolutely smashed here. Look, he goes over the bars, hits hard. Actually, the bike could have got him again, but then Hicks's bike made sure that Hardy gets hit there. And honestly, hats off to Hardy for continuing on and actually riding the other two main events. Like, I thought he would have been done for the evening altogether, but he was able to bounce back and finish off the night. Ends up still dead last, but still, and 1 point on the night, but still, that's not too bad.
One race in Salt Lake City, Arena Cross, complete quick story. I remember going down in a nollie section of whoops like that and getting just clobbered by something and getting up half days, and the flagger's waving his flag. And I'm like, and I look around and I'm like asking the flagger, who hit me? Who hit me? He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, who ran me over? He goes, bro, your bike just clobbered. That was your bike that killed you. So needless to say, I think we've all been through that at least one time or another when you just get up going, well, who clobbered me? And it was your own bike. And in Hardy's instance, it was his bike and Michael Hicks.
Yeah, what a tough dude. He takes some big licks, but big licking, but keeps on ticking, baby. I'm a fan.
Yeah, he was Chilean in the dirt. I like that.
Laying in the dirt.
Speaking of laying in the dirt, there was a lot of that in the 450 races, and Cooper Webb pounces on opportunity, races off with the win. Brad.
Dude, the guy's just opportunistic. Cooper Webb, whenever one of his close competitors falters, he is right there to stick and move. He assessed the situation, albeit a few feet further back than Chase Sexton was able to. He's able to go around the outside. And from there, I think, honestly, that was such a devastating sort of turn of events in that one straightaway. Of course, Grant Harlan just not knowing where to go. He kind of gets caught in the crossfire. And the real winner here is Cooper Webb, because not only did he win that pass right there, he ended up winning the event because of that pass. Beautiful.
For sure. Great racing all around. And we've talked about it a little bit last week coming in. And I mean, we talked about it in the pre-race or pre-game show before the season. And there was really two guys that one of us was high on, and one of them was Seth Hammaker. And he's obviously out, but I got to tell you, Nate Thrasher has proven to be a real deal contender, and the biggest thorn in the side of Hunter Lawrence. Thrasher proves that consistency wins Triple Crowns. Three race format. Debo, you saw Thrasher. What do you think?
You know, he's we've admitted in the past, you know, when he is in fourth, he just kind of fourth riding, you know, in the past. And then when he's out front he takes advantage of situations and rides very well when he's out front. I think we're seeing a new side of him where he's able to lay down consistency, as we've talked about. And it was hard to keep up with what was actually happening being at the live event, you know, going to Dallas, Fort Worth, or Arlington this last round. Being in the stands, it's a lot of distraction, hard to keep track of a Triple Crown. You got 6 different main events, trying to keep up with who's got going into the last main event with an overall. And to have Nate Thrasher win that last one with a third, you know, with Martin going 6-12-1. I love this C series. It's been a lot of fun. Hunter hasn't been quite as dominant as we thought, but and Thrasher, I think, is getting better and better. And we're heading into a big track, which we know he's been very successful at. He could put in the last chance qualifier and still be a favorite. So I'm liking what we're seeing from the Star team all together between Thrasher, Smith, and Deegan. The powerhouse of Star that we didn't think was that powerhouse this year is starting to show their claws. They're ready to make some shit happen.
And don't forget about Daxton Bennick taking home another win in the futures class and doing it with commanding authority, looking like an absolute professional out there. Thrasher's been very impressive. I was really impressed in race number 1 where he actually made up time on Hunter, but I do think Hunter was managing the race a little bit, but Thrasher probably made it closer than he wanted to in that first race. So cool to see at least somebody stepping up, and potentially I think this time next year, I think we talk about Thrasher as a title contender. Not that he's out of it completely this year, but I think it's going to be tough. But coming into next year, he's got to be towards the top. Maybe my favorite headline that Brad put together: rubber side up. The 250 class chaos puts results in the blender.
Absolutely. And this is the gift that never stops giving. The 250 class, East Coast, West Coast, doesn't matter. These kids are learning, and they're making mistakes along the way. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, there is no more than 2 or 3 guys in the entire top 10 that didn't have to take a soil sample sometime during the evening. Lord knows, even the guy who won it ended up on the ground at some point. In fact, it was at that last race. He basically had it all wrapped up and just had to have us bite our nails off a little bit more. This class is if you've got a pacemaker, if you've got a heart condition, you should probably not watch the 250 East because these guys are going for it every single weekend, and you never know who's going to hit the ground next, whether it's the guy who's leading the points, just absolutely sprinting away with this championship, or somebody at the back of the pack. Nobody is immune. Nobody comes out of this thing unscathed. Some guys get hurt and hit more than others. Guys like Luke Neese and Hardy Munoz are taking their lumps right now, but literally everybody in the field is going rubber side up and making it all more entertaining for us. I love it.
Absolutely want to send a get well wish out to Luke Neese. I know he was laying on the ground in one of the races, and he's really had a pretty solid season going so far. And also a big get well wish to my buddy Zach Williams. He had a gnarly get off training in Florida this week, and is still in the hospital at the moment. He's going to be out for the rest of Supercross, and hopefully we'll see him at some point during the summer outdoors. But just glad that he's able to walk out of the hospital at some point, or at least he's walking around the hallways with a walker. It's going to be a long road to recovery for him, but get well soon to my buddy Zach. And speaking of things just not going all that well. And the opposite of Star Racing is what the heck is going on with the Gas team? I swear, I really think that Michael Mosiman might just need a change of scenery. Gas shows a flash and recedes into the shadows. More struggles for the TLD squad. Bam Bam has mistakes as well. Mosiman hasn't been himself this year. What do you think, Denny? What's going on over there? Are they doing just fine?
Well, again, I'm a firm believer, as you just said, change of scenery is good for anybody. I think we've seen it multiple times throughout the motocross and supercross history. But for the most consistent guy out there for 3 motos was Michael Mosiman, being almost completely irrelevant, going 7-6-7, no real action, just out there kind of in the shadows, like you said. I am shocked by it. We all talked about it at the beginning of the season. At least the 3 of us did, that he is now the favorite, or at least one of the favorites, along with Hunter, with Joe being gone and all the other injuries, that Mosiman was going to be a podium guy week in and week out. We have not seen that yet. We haven't even seen him up front. We haven't seen a lot of mistakes. We just see him just kind of out there in the middle of nowhere. So I don't know if it's something to do with the bike. I don't know if it's something to do with him, like he's hiding an injury. But I think it's pretty clear with Michael Mosiman being just buried in the back of the pack that something's going on. Not back of the pack, but back of the lead pack when he's supposed to be leading it. And so I don't know. It's a little disheartening to watch when you think that someone's going to step up and is getting smoked by these rookies. But again, it's a deep field. These kids are riding their asses off, and there's no place safe. I think we saw Hunter go from, you go a little bit wide and 2 guys going to close that door and 2 guys going to go past you when you're trying to gather yourself. So we're seeing motocross, supercross at one of the best times. So much talent. These young guys are for real. And the old guys are, as Michael's considered an old guy, and he's getting schooled by these kids right now.
Yeah, speaking of the young guys, we saw a lot of it with that Supercross Futures class, and I mean, I would do anything for it to be Mosiman kind of in the position Jordan Smith's in right now. I think he would maybe even execute closer to a championship from what we've seen. I have to think that there's something going on as far as the new chassis of the bike with the 250 guys there, because both Pierce Brown and Michael Mosiman are better than they've shown. And I mean, you could go back to a year ago. Shimoda maybe was like this a little bit, where we thought he'd be up front near the podium, but he doesn't have even the Supercross resume that Mosiman has. I mean, Mosiman's a podium guy week in and week out, as long as he's not on his head. And he's
currently eighth in points. I mean, that's just,
it's terrible.
His championship's over.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting beat by Viale. He's getting beat by Smith. He's getting beat by J-Mart. He's getting beat by Deegan.
Deegan.
Those are 4 guys that he should not be getting beat by. And no slight of any of them. But if you want to be the head of the class, which he came into supposed to be, you got to carry that torch. Otherwise, someone's going to take that spot. And I think right now the team at Gas Troy Lee has kind of buried their heads and sitting and stand with Pierce Brown and Mosiman, because they are not getting shit done right now in 2023.
I agree 100%. But getting it done, we mentioned it a little bit earlier. Bennick rips the Futures a new one and sprints to another win. Brad, we touched on Bennick a little bit. If you want to add a little bit, you can. But what about the other guys in Supercross Futures? What stood out to you? We had a couple guys on some new orange motorcycles, and a well-known redheaded kid from Florida who couldn't make it through practice. What stood out to you?
Julian Bomir showing us that you can change manufacturers in the course of a month and still go crazy fast. Regardless of the result, this kid showed me that he has adaptability, and that twisted development motor that's underneath him is pretty solid as well. Hope gladly it was able to stay together. Honestly, I was really impressed with his riding. I was impressed with Casey Cochran as I am every time I see him ride. It was a bummer to see Evan Ferry go down. Obviously, he's on a bit of an interesting program right now, as he's not really a Yamaha rider. He's all blacked out bike as he sort of waits in the wings for the non-disclosure agreements to be uplifted so that he can ride his Triumph that he'll be on in a few months' time. But honestly, I'm really impressed with everything that I saw from these kids. Right off the hop, there was that one kid, I think it's either Yancey or something, on a Suzuki, ends up just hanging a left during the start, and he ends up like basically being a complete flash in the pan. I think he was running second or third for the first straightaway, and then he went like exit right at the end of that straightaway, and he basically, I think he ended up like 17th or something like that. But when Daxton Bennett comes out there and just absolutely crushes it for everybody, it was it's honestly was it Chase Yancer? Yenser. Chase Yenser. Yeah, that kid was a problem for some people in that start for the Supercross Futures. But when Daxton Bennett comes out and just absolutely lays it down on everybody, it's really tough for those other guys to really stand out, because they got beat down 2 times in a row now by 7+ seconds in either one of those Supercross Futures. He is 17 years old. He's essentially the same age as Danger Boy is. So for all intents and purposes, he should probably already be in Supercross, but having not ridden it last year and being brand new to the Yamaha, I completely understand kind of keeping him down. He's going to go race some races. Well, he's going to be in Daytona this weekend doing the amateur thing. And then he hits the Texas two-step before basically putting his head down, getting ready for Loretta's. But I was really impressed with everything that I saw, especially that Julian Beaumier, otherwise known as Juju.
Yeah, well, at least somebody can adapt to their bike quickly, because, well, guess what? Roxanne's supposed to be switching suspension up again, even though his forks don't say factory connection. He's back working with them, supposedly. I am done with this saga. I'm over with. I'm not even going to get worked up about it. Eventually, you have to ride your same motorcycle so that you know what you're racing on the weekend, so you're not changing it all the time. How the heck are you ever going to trust your front wheel in a corner if you don't ride the same setup twice in a row and you were always changing anything? At some point, you have to find a base setting and say, this is what I'm going to ride, and I'm going to ride it for weeks and weeks and weeks. You know who else is very famous for this, and we're going to talk about later in the show? The guy that pushes his front end probably more than anyone, RJ Hampshire, completely complains about his motorcycle over and over and over again. It's testing. Well, guess what? He never finds a front end feel and washes the dang thing out over and over. Kenny just goes slower. Brad, what's up?
Is there any particular reason as to why Ken Roczen looked both more comfortable and possibly faster on a YZ 252 stroke 6 months ago?
Well, I have a theory that he screws his bikes up the more that he rides them, the longer that he's on them. If he would just leave them alone, he would be fine, but he's always chasing crap.
He did the same thing on Suzuki the last year he was on it. If you remember, he won that championship on Suzuki with RCH with stock triple clamps on that motorcycle. He was chasing his tail even when he was winning back then.
Again, yeah, I think even Blair asked RC 2 weeks ago on the broadcast. He goes, when is enough enough? And Ricky was trying to answer it politically correct without just saying, again, what just Checkers exactly just said.
Shut up and ride it.
Just kind of shut up and ride the bike. And another point we just talked about last time Ken was on a Suzuki, how he went to stock triple clamps. Back in the early 90s, when Larry Ward was with Factory Suzuki, Larry's very much the same way. Could not find a happiness, couldn't find a good setting, couldn't find nothing. Then he finally decided he was going to run production stock. He had to have a brand new set, basically pulled off a bike out of a dealership, stock pair of forks. And Larry felt that that's what he was most comfortable with and the fastest he could ride with. Literally a stock showroom set of forks on his Factory Suzuki. And he's like, that's what I need. And so, yeah, the snowflake era obviously started back in the 90s, because Larry was one of those guys who just was never really happy, yet could go blazingly fast when everything clicked. If we show up, if Roczen showed up with box stock forks and a shock at next week, I think we have a new snowflake.
How many years how many years of Lee McCullum's life did working for Larry Ward take off of him?
I think it was actually Ed Longacre might have been working with him at the time. I'm not.
Oh, was it Ed?
Yeah, because Ed obviously is known him from the Northeast. Had a lot of history with him, so I'm almost certain it was Ed that was working with him. But
could have been
Larry. Larry was obviously an incredible talent and got a couple seconds in series, and it could go to Europe and beat the best in the world, and come back and go, my bike sucks. So
he was eclectic.
And that's a lot. We have a lot of personalities in the sport. We always have, and that's what makes it so great and allows us now to talk about it. Back then, can you imagine the stories that they would have been talking about? The fact that Larry had to pull his box stock pair of forks on to line up for the Supercross. And Kenny is we're going to join him as long as he's in the sport, because he rode well in Dallas, and he rode better than he did the week before, clearly. But I still again think, had he been on his Paris bike, he'd be competing for wins with comfortable. He's just still struggling with that bike. He looks like he's fighting it, and he's doing so well because of his talent, I think, because of the hard work of the team. But you're just not going to win on a 6-year-old bike, period.
Nope. All right, up next, it's Daytona, baby. Daytona Supercross. Maybe it still has some of the luster that it had when I first started watching the sport back in the day, when I used to watch it on Speed Channel back in my youth. But this segment is brought to you by BigMX Radio. You can go to BigMX Radio and listen to all 26 of the podcasts that I've released over the last 28 days. Yeah, I've been kind of busy. I promise all my sponsors, Racetech being one of them, that I will put out minimum 52 podcasts throughout the year. So we did about half of that throughout the month of February. So I would say that I'm keeping up my end of the deal. Go check out those podcasts. We've got tons of different content on there every single week. It's Daytona. It's not what it once was, but it's as good once as it ever was. Sunny and 75. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous. We're not going to have a hellacious munter like we did back in 2008. It's going to be gorgeous. I think this race should still be a daytime race, even though here in 2023 we have daytime supercrosses. So I have there is no real reason to me as to why this race shouldn't be during the day. It would kind of bring back some more nostalgia about what this made this race so great. I also think that this racetrack should be more outdoorsy than the supercrossiness that it's sort of become. It's become more and more and more cookie cutter supercross over the last few years. But my question to Denny Stevenson, do you recall the last time that you were tortured in the Daytona sun? I'm sure you were like, the sun was beating on you. You probably had like vodka coming out of your pores due to going to Razzles the night before, or maybe you were just like, you're baking the sun thinking about going to Razzles later that night. Can you tell me about the last time you rode Daytona, Denny Stevenson?
I just talked with our friend Rotomoto about the track and the Daytona-ness and epicness. The fact that for me, it's still one of the most iconic events in all of motocross, supercross. Last year I rode it. Actually, we did a fantasy retro series on MotoExtreme360.com, and one of the races I drew was Daytona '96. And it was my last year of racing supercross. I was riding the Great Western Bank team. I was struggling with a badly fucked up thumb that I could barely hold on to. And fortunately at the time, I think they were still taking 30 riders in the main event. It was middle of the day. The track made no rhyme or reason at all. Every jump was like hitting a wall. The black sand. That's what I still find epic about it and want more of. If they could just make a sand track, and why not just make the Southwick Daytona Supercross track, let it break down throughout the day, not really touch it, don't really shape things up, don't make the jumps really big, let it break down. Those big holes that they can dig in the sand. I realize that Ricky's dealing with very much a floor plan that he has to kind of stick with. The track is obviously back to back these last year to this year, but back in the day, man, it was hot, it was miserable. The track made no rhyme or reason. I think I've definitely crashed off the track and landed on the pavement a few times, and that to me is what it's all about. Like you said, sun, middle of the day. Not really looking forward to the main event in the least, and it really being nothing like Supercross. No rhyme or reason. Almost like a GNCC. Like, let's just go, let this track just go to shit and see what happens.
That's awesome. I absolutely love it. People can check out the columns that I've been doing on Verb Moto. There's 3 of them up there right now, and there should be another one pops up first thing tomorrow morning. Verb Moto has been kind enough to bring me on as a quote unquote journalist. So look for more of my content over there as well. They're going to be sharing some links to BigMX Radio podcast. Now it's time for me to rear back and toss things over to Checkers for some Daytona stats, facts, and interesting tidbits that we've collected for this particular show.
Well, before I start with the facts that are the actual freaking numbers, we're going to go into some real facts about Denny being wrong. You said the track should be nothing like Supercross going into the main event. Well, is it the Daytona Motocross or is it the Daytona Supercross? Is it the most prestigious event on the Supercross schedule, arguably other than A1, or is it the motocross version? If you want to run,
I think one year it was actually part of the motocross series.
I'm good with it. Make it hot, gnarly, rough during the day, 30 rider gates. You can do 40 if you want. It'll be sweet. I'm all about it. But put it in the motocross series. If you want it to be the pinnacle of Supercross, then let's make it the pinnacle of Supercross. The lighting sucks.
Can we do the double gates thing like you like to do with the 40 guys? Just like 2 sets of 20?
I think. Hey, Checkers. Hey, Checkers. When you win at Daytona, you let me know.
Well, what's the point? Like, I don't understand. Like, they struggle to see in the dark dirt. And that's what gets rough and hides the ruts. It's a sweet venue with more space. Why not build the most badass supercross track you've ever built? Bring in all that like light colored clay that you'd actually be able to see at night. It's not going to get rutted up, and build these gnarly long rhythm sections and huge jumps and massive whoop sections and have the pinnacle of supercross, like a supercross hell track. Why don't you do that? I mean, call it the
'05
Daytona
was good.
Supercross.
I think '05 was my favorite layout that was in the evening when Chad and Ricky went toe to toe and Chad ended up winning. That's also the same weekend that Travis Pastrana showed up and busted his wrist up real good.
So these hybrid tracks are they're half motocross and half supercross. If you're gonna run it the way that they're doing now, I'd rather it be in the daytime and rougher than crap. But don't call it a supercross then. It just put it as one of the super motocross rounds. How badass would that be? I'm all for that. But this hey, I'm going to put in 2 stupid sand S turns and call it a motocross track and a straightaway with some kickers going down it and a freaking bunch of single jumps and walls. That's not freaking supercross. It's not motocross. It is stupid is what it is. Give me a supercross track or give me a motocross track. Anyways, we're never going to agree on it. If Denny, do you want to rebut to this, or you just want to tell me that I'm on the moon and move on?
I mean, you're on Pluto right now. I thought. So, no, it is what it is, and we grew up differently and have different opinions for sure. But as I jokingly said, when your name's in the Hall of Fame, Checkers, there at Daytona Motor Speedway, you let me know. Yeah,
is there anyone from Nebraska in there in Daytona, in the big bike class? Because there's at least a guy from Iowa in there.
Yeah, congratulations, and we both know him, so. But well done, Justin Brayton. That is one of the coolest things I think we've ever seen is that win that night. And
I love it.
And that's what's, and we've had we've had some epic races with the guys. I mean, I think with James when he went down and he was hopping the wall. When Eli's wheeling down the straightaway doing that wheel on the Geico Honda. Go back years ago when Rick Ryan wins as a privateer out of nowhere. Dial back in a little bit back further when Johnny O'Mara skies over the finish line to take the win. Factory Honda all dressed in matching colors. I mean, back when he used to go across the pavement with Hannah on the Honda and stuff. I mean, so many iconic events there. The memories of Daytona, I think, should go on. And it'll always be, to me, one of the most memorable events we have all year long. Whether they change it to the day, should they have it during the night, it might not always be the great to be standing there live on the wall, but fucking A, it's Daytona Supercross. And I hope these guys take it when they win as meaningful as it means to me watching it. And I think they do, just seeing what it meant to Justin Brayton, that the fact that he is going to be the, what are they calling him, the race, the Grand Marshal of it this weekend. I think it's very well deserved.
Master of Ceremonies or whatever.
Yeah. So badass. We're heading to Daytona and I'm fucking pumped.
Yeah, we can agree on that part. It is still a spectacle. It is still a highlight. It is still a prestigious venue. That part I 100% agree with. And, it's this because of going to Mexico. I'm not going this year. Normally my fiance and I go down there and celebrate her birthday. Happy early birthday to her. I'm sure she's watching and probably agreeing with me, Denny, just so you know. But it is a really cool race. It is really neat to go there and see it and feel it. Although watching the race live there absolutely sucks. If I were to do it again, I'd go watch practice and go watch it on TV somewhere. The environment.
Yeah, honestly, can I chime in on that for a second? I think of Daytona Supercross a lot like when they have like outdoor hockey games at like a stadium, like sitting in the stands, you're not going to see shit. But it's the atmosphere. It's being at Daytona Motor Speedway. It's all of that other stuff around it. It's all of the like the cachet that being in that beautiful arena or beautiful stadium allows for it. It's all of the extra intangible things. Watching the race, like you can take or leave it. You can watch it on TV. I think for no other reason that's why that race is what it is, and you don't really have to be in person to make it great.
And like Checkers, I think Checkers' word said it best. It's a spectacle, and it's very much so. Yeah, for
sure. We're going to see a debut on a 450 from a guy we talked about earlier who likes to push his front end, Richard Hampshire. He's stepping up to the 450 for Daytona and maybe some select rounds. Roxon debuted in the 450 class here. We've kind of been, we've seen it with guys. They'll jump in on a 450 here, 250 guys randomly at Daytona for some reason, which is kind of weird to me because it's like half outdoors and half Supercross. It's really difficult to get set up for, I feel like, but maybe it's just not quite as technical as why they're doing it. We've seen it like with Jeremy Martin before. J Mart, actually, I saw Kellen put out a fact that J Mart has podiumed every single time at Daytona except once, including his second in the 450 class. That is pretty nuts. That's a pretty gnarly stat, especially coming off that last race win. You could hear him on the podium last week and just like, yeah, let's go to Daytona. Obviously pretty fired up. Cooper Webb has actually been good at Daytona with a bunch of seconds and
surprisingly good.
Yeah, you don't see that, but I mean, really, dude, Eli is the gnarliest guy at Daytona. He's got the record for the most wins, and he's trucking this year. So he's the only rider in the field to have won Daytona, and he's done it 6 times. That's some legendary stats. Last year's race, Tomac, Webb, Sexton, Ferrandis, Barsha. We get Ferrandis back. Super cool to see a national motocross champion come back. I feel like Daytona is going to be a good track for him. It'll be interesting coming off of an injury, how much he's in shape. The 250 class, we can't even look at last year and bring much from it because they're all on the other coast now. So
one thing about Webb, Webb came into last year, I'd say a shell of what he is right now, and uncorked it and almost got the win. We're seeing a whole nother Webb right now. I'm really excited to see what he brings. I think that Eli knew that he could break him last year. I think there might be a little bit of doubt start getting deep into his Eli's mind a little bit. And if Webb brings the heat he brought last year, man, it's going to be one hell of a shootout. And if Webb can come in as half as strong as he did last year, it's going to be fucking awesome.
I mean, definitely don't count out the speed of Chase Sexton that we've been seeing as well. I mean, he was on the podium there a year ago as well. And I don't know. Hopefully we just see a knockdown, drag out battle with the track just rougher than crap, because it's going to be. And hopefully it'll be sick. But I mean, those conditions, you could argue favor any of the guys, probably the least favorable Sexton. So hopefully he has a big enough lead that he can get back up from his main event fall over and still win, maybe, for his championship sake. I also saw that there's a chance we could leave Daytona with 3 red plates if those guys flip around on the podium just right. So how cool would that be? I've seen 2 red plates, but I've never seen 3 before that I can think of.
That would be really cool.
That'd be crazy.
So Chase would have to win, and Eli gets 3rd.
And Cooper gets 2nd.
Yeah, that would do it.
They would have to just totally invert. Yeah, Chase, Coop, Eli. And that would do it right there. 26, 23, 21 right there.
And that could happen. Like, that's not crazy.
Very much happen. Absolutely. Because I don't see Anderson grinding out for that amount of time. I'd see those guys, wherever they finish, and they might not they'll get to the top 3. I see those 3 being the top 3 guys, because I just don't see anyone else. At the end of that 20-minute plus 1 lap at Daytona, we've seen it time and time again. The strong just survive. The cream rises to the top. As long as Chase doesn't tuck a front end somewhere, it's going to be awesome. Anderson, I think, will show some colors if he can try and keep his head straight for that entire main event. But the cream is rising to the top, and it's badass right now, and it's fun to watch. And I didn't even consider that. The 3 red plates. What a way to leave it if that works out.
All right, it's time for the MXD360.com dash for cash. It's MXD360.com is a fantasy game that we're going to get into a little bit later on. It's really, really fun to play, even if you're as bad at it as I am. And we're going to get into our picks later on. But honestly, you guys can go to that website right now, MXD360.com right now. You can sign up, play along with us. Let me know your username so I can add you to the league. Hopefully you're worse than me so that I won't be last in my own damn league. But either way, you know what? I signed up, and I'm in for the King's gear. If you sign up, you can win Jeremy McGrath's gear. You don't have to just DM Debo, and then hopefully he can call Jeremy, and then you can kind of haul in a favor to get you a set of gear. You could just win it straight off. $12 is the asking price to get in there, and honestly, it's well worth it. As almost literally you get a raffle ticket for a set of McGrath's gear, and then you get to test your motocross knowledge by playing some fantasy and just getting absolutely crushed like me every single weekend when I pick Hardy Munoz and get 1 goddamn point in the 250 class for one of my riders. But regardless, these are rapid fire questions, so I expect some rapid fire answers. Checkers, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
Who has been the biggest surprise in the 250 East class so far?
Michael Moseman, and that's a negative one, unfortunately. We talked about that before. If you want to go positive, I can't go Anstey because I really saw him there, but I thought he'd be behind the Pro Circuit Kawasaki's, so his results just moved forward. I think that we all could see this potentially happening with Hayden Deegan, so I don't think that's a surprise. So I have to go with the negative of Michael Moseman. If you want me to take a positive, it'll be Hardy Munoz getting a top 10 finish.
Certainly, that is surprising. Debo, are you ready?
I'm ready, brother.
Should Mitch Payton have added a second rider for the 250 East? Chris Blows is getting better right now, but he's still not performing at the top where Pro Circuit's known to be placing.
I'm a firm believer in the fill-in rider, filling that spot. You know, what the bike's going to be there, the mechanics are already there. I mean, literally just get the guy a little bit of time to test and send him racing. Big fan of the zombie Chris Blows. But Checkers, I'm still waiting for these multiple top fives from Blows. You promised me.
I said one.
I'm still waiting. That doesn't count. That's in one of a Triple Crown. I'm waiting for an overall in a full 15-minute main event. He's doing well, but if we can just see, maybe Mitch was just tired, man. When you literally have 7 guys and 6 of them disappear, maybe just like, fuck it, let's just get this East round done and get to the West and get to the outdoors. But hey, all right. Christian Craig already has 2 of his top 8s.
We're gonna get to that in a second here. All right, Checkers, I'm gonna give you the magic wand here. This is actually a pen, but Daytona Supercross, what is it missing and what does it do well?
What it does well is it's at Daytona freaking International Speedway during bike week. It's freaking spring break in Florida. It is motorcycles everywhere. It is awesome. That part, sick. It's insane. Well, how do you fix it? I already told you earlier, this is rapid fire. Give them a bunch of clay, make it the gnarliest, longest Supercross track with big rhythms, big jumps, big whoops, massive everything, and make it the pinnacle of Supercross. So if you win that, you're the gnarliest Supercross racer in the world, not necessarily the gnarliest dude in the world, the gnarliest Supercrosser in the world, because right now Daytona Supercross is half GNCC with ruts that are over your seat, half motocross, and a little bit of Supercross sprinkled in. That's how you fix Daytona. It'll never happen, but that's what should happen.
Fair enough. Debo, what will Christian Craig's best finish be in 2023? You predicted 8 top 5 finishes. He so far has 0 of those. With 10 rounds to go, he needs to get all of those in the next 10 races.
Yeah, I might have definitely overshot with Christian. He seems to be coming to his own on the bike. I think we flipped it around to getting 8 top. Or we had 8 top 5.
5 top 8s.
Now I'm just hoping for 5 top 8s. We already got 2 of those locked down. He's getting better each week, getting more comfortable with the motorcycle. I think it's actually helped the fact that Stewart is off the bike. I think the team's able to focus on what he wants, what makes him happy, how the bike will work best for him. And he's getting better each round. So I'm still shooting. If I can get 1 top 5 out of my 8 I originally projected, I'll be happy. The 450 class is tough. Christian Craig's realizing it, and keep building, brother. We need 1 top 8 and about 4 more top 5s.
Checkers, the list of privateers is long and not distinguished, but who of all the privateers right now is not getting nearly enough coverage?
I think you have to go with Josh Cartwright. I would almost go Kevin Morantz, but he's actually starting to get a little bit of coverage because he's doing so well. Nobody talks about Josh Cartwright other than the fact that they drop in, he has a full-time job and he was a full-time college student in every single
that is all they know.
Broadcast. Could we go get a little more information on the guy? He is freaking killing it this year. He made a huge step up. He has become a solid main event guy most weekends. I mean, he is fast and he's good and he's not shown. He's not talked about. And the only time he is talked about is the same fact. I don't even know who he's riding for because they don't mention his dang sponsors, which is another thing I get frustrated about, is these privateers don't get a lot of time. So Jim's Carpet and Flooring, they get their one shot when their dude pulls a dang hole shot or is leading an LCQ, and you can't say their name on TV. They could be putting 20 grand into that guy's program. That is make it to the races or not for these guys. Give them the love they deserve when they deserve it. You guys got me.
I agree. No, absolutely. And he's been doing extremely well. Should probably call him up for a podcast later on. Maybe next week when he's heading. He's probably heading to the track right now. Debo, last question for the rapid fire questions here. Is Jason Anderson out of this championship right now? He's 30 points down.
Oh, he's absolutely out of this championship. And he did not come in anywhere where we expected. We thought he was going to come in under the radar, bust out some El Hombre finishes. He struggled from the 4 set with 2 7s. He got a couple podiums right off the bat. And he's improved there with 6.54, but it's okay maybe to be 30 points down to one rider, but then to be 28 points down to another rider, and then 25 points to the third rider. Yeah, there's no chance in hell that all three of these guys are going to hit the grenade button and El Hombre is going to get a chance. His window's closed, and we're only 7 rounds in, and that's a shame because I think we really thought we were going to see him pull off at least another 7 wins, battle for the title. It's down to a 3-guy battle, and the Cowie team is once again still struggling. They're down to AC's gone, Jason's alone, and he's going to be running. He could run some podiums, but there's no chance in hell we'll see him win this title.
Yeah, he can salvage some race wins perhaps this throughout the rest of this year, but that's all he can really focus on. All right, on to our next segment, which is brought to you by airwheeliesonly.com. Yes, that's a real website. You can go there right now. There's posts on it every single week, including the Supercross Survivor Challenge and the Super Survivor Challenge, in which I think I'm still active in at least one of those. I know I'm still in the Supercross Survivor. Fingers crossed that my luck continues in that respect. But this is our versus challenge questions. 2 idiots go in, only one emerge victorious. So far, we have Checkers with the current lead in this. He's got 3 correct to Debo's 2 correct. It's a close battle between these two, and it's time to do battle again. Are you gentlemen ready?
Well, technically,
Absolutely.
I won them all last week because Denny wasn't here. So
you probably argued with. No, I knew you argued with yourself. I know you're that well. You literally changed the camera angle.
He might have. Yeah, arguing both sides of the point. Checkers is certainly good at that. But let's roll straight into these things. Who finishes better at Daytona, Christian Craig or Richard Hampshire?
Holy crap! Well.
That's a great question.
You look at Christian Craig and you don't really think outdoor warrior, but he's pretty dang good outdoors. You don't see the guy that hangs it out on the edge and goes fast, which I feel like is something that you need at Daytona. So I'm just going to go with that. He's not going to hang it out enough. RJ is going to hang it out. And we also have the history of the 250 guys jumping into the 450 class at Daytona. Heck yeah, I'm going to go RJ Hampshire. You want to know why? Because he's going to go fast no matter what. He has no pressure. He's not expected to do anything. He's just going to go out and rip. And I don't think Craig's going to match his speed. And then, you have all the history. Jeremy Martin. You have Jason Lawrence. I think Sexton did it and Tomac did it. Potentially, I can't remember. I should have probably done my research on this to really nail down my point. But if Jason Lawrence can get on the podium on a 450 at Daytona when he wasn't training at all and half the time wasn't even showing up to the races, then I think RJ Hampshire can beat Christian Craig's 7th or 8th place finish.
That's a great question. Wow. The numbers, like you said, Checkers, the success of a 250 guy jumping on a 450 at Daytona has proven time and time again to be very exciting, very successful for, like you said, Jay Martin and J Law and probably a couple others that we don't even know at the time. But let's be honest, Craig is a powerhouse outdoors. RJ is a powerhouse outdoors as well on the 250. He's probably going to be a representative in Motocross the Nations on the 250. But Craig's been doing on a 450 many times. He's got 2 seasons of riding a 450 outdoors in 35-minute heat. I can't see RJ making it 20 minutes plus 1 without pushing that front end like a broom. There's so much sand out there on the floor. It needs to be piled up, thrown in like cat litter into a trash box or something. Meanwhile, RJ's over there with his broom in his little dustpan scooping up. Meanwhile, Christian Craig is wheeling by, and for his 3rd top 8 in a row, possibly even a top 5, because this is the most outdoor track I think we'll see all season Supercross. And this is my chance. Let's do it, Craig. Don't let me down, brother.
Can we talk about the riders that were not on the starting gate when he got those fabulous outdoor results, just like the Supercross ones that got us in this situation in the first place?
Fucking argument you've ever had in your life, ever.
Debo is on brand if he's nothing else. Debo is on brand if he's nothing else. All right, so this next question is a little bit more difficult to really determine a winner. But what we're going to do is between these 2 team managers, we're going to use their best riders from this weekend's results to determine who the winner of this particular challenge is. Who would you rather have as a team manager, Lars Lindstrom or Ian Harrison? Debo, I'll let you pick first.
I'm going to go with Lars. I personally know Lars. I've been a fan of his from when he was working.
Good looking man.
Yeah, long time known him. Someone I've actually talked with and hung out with a little bit. Ian, I don't know him as quite as well, but Lars, he's like someone that would bring out the best of his guys. Obviously, he brought out the best with Chad Reed and the CR22 team. I'm a big fan of what he's done. I think he realizes that Honda has missed a lot of time of winning, a lot of missed opportunities. Keo's done a great job, but they have yet to find the success. They threw the reins to Lars. His dad's had the job. We're seeing Honda fucking destroying right now. The Lawrence brothers are crushing it. Chase is killing it. I'm pumped with Lars. Lars Lindstrom, I'm a big fan of his, and I hope he rolls into it and gets himself some titles this year. Brings Honda to the forefront of the iconic brand that I grew up on with Johnny O and RJ, and it just goes on and on. Ricky Johnson. This is what I'm seeing, and I love what he's bringing. Well, on my other hand, I think Orange is struggling. The pumpkin's turned to Halloween's already cracked. It's time for Alice in Wonderland to go home.
I don't understand how you could say Orange is crumbling. They have a whole lot more championships racked up in that 450 class than Honda's had lately. And I'm a Honda guy. I love Honda. Would I love to go hang out with Lars? I would probably love to hang out with Lars. He sounds like a pretty fun dude. But here's the fact of the matter. On the racetrack, the results aren't getting it done. KTM has one down year last year, and everyone's, oh, the brand sucks. They're terrible, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? Webb's right back in the title fight again. He's got a couple Supercross championships. AP's looking better than ever, better than he ever did on the Yamaha before he got this KTM deal. Holy crap, he's doing good. The only thing that might suck about being Ian Harrison, besides the fact that your team on the 450 side is kicking some major butt, is the fact you got Roger over your shoulder all the time, probably still pulling all the strings, so you don't control your own destiny. So if you're asking me who's going to be the more successful team manager, I mean, I got to go with the philosophy that it's already been proven. Ian and Roger have been a powerhouse duo and really good. So if we're going on results, I would go that way. Who I would rather have, I'm going to hang out with Lars, and I'm going to ride a Honda because Hondas are freaking awesome. And that's the only thing I'm going to ride. I'm going to go down to Storm Lake Honda and buy them, even as long as Lars wants to be my team manager. We're going to go kick some ass on the racetrack, and then we're going to go have a beer after and laugh about it. So I guess I'll take you guys both Ian Harrison, but
ride red, baby.
For results, I'm going to go Ian Harrison. But
fair enough. I hope that Ian Harrison crams it up both your hoops. And honestly, though, Lars Lindstrom is just good people. All right, boys. We got a couple of guys on our next versus question or the versus challenge that are neck and neck in points. They're both on support level teams that don't get factory help. And honestly, they both had a lot of success in 250 Supercross. Not so much in the 450 class, but these guys are basically the same vintage. Really, really talented athletes. I'm interested to see how you guys shake these two out. Dean Wilson, who's in the twilight of his career, or you have Justin Hill, who is just a total whack-a-mole. We don't really know what to expect from him on any particular week. Checkers, I'll give you the floor first.
Well, if we were going anywhere but Daytona, this one actually is pretty easy for me. Justin Hill's on the up climb. He's getting better and doing better and doing better. And he's not as beat up as Dean Wilson is. The fact is the years of Supercross and injuries and stuff, they've absolutely destroyed Dean Wilson. The fact that he's still out there, keeping a smile on his face and delivering reasonably good results is pretty incredible. However, we are going to Daytona, and guess what? Dean Wilson was one of those guys that was a fill-in on Chad Reed's team and kicked butt. I think he was fast qualifier or second fastest qualifier.
Did he win a heat race?
He's an outdoor national champion. It might have been a while ago, but he knows how to ride outdoors. And if there's one thing that's maybe a flaw in the Justin Hill program, it's going to be the end of a moto at Daytona. I'm going Dean Wilson to beat Justin Hill at Daytona.
Sorry, Debo.
That's a good one. I mean, again, they're right now currently 12th and 13th in points. Dean's right at the cusp of top 10. Hill's got a 20th mixed in. His bike broke. He has a 10th at the last round. Got those 10 bonus points in MotoExtreme360.com. And Hill, I've known Josh and his brother Justin since they were little kids. I sponsored them at Smith. I remember Josh telling me stories about Justin not really giving a shit. He was a chubby little kid running around on his little BMX bike. As he got older, he just chased ass. He's an anomaly, as we've seen. He's went so unbelievably, got a Supercross title in the 250. Went to Suzuki. We saw some flashes of brilliance there. And then he just disappeared, became a cop. And then he decided, fuck it, I want to come back. I think it's fantastic to see the Hill brothers, Josh and Justin. I think Josh actually beat him the last two rounds before this round. I think they're having the time of their life. They're very tight. I think it's great to see him out there. I think Justin Hill will put together I see him putting some together, kind of like Jason Lawrence did, J-Law. I can see Justin getting a top 5 start, getting in the zone, following some of the guys up front, getting the pace. And while Dean just is kind of happy where he's at, getting through the night with nothing too crazy, well, Justin will pull off something crazy, spectacular, like a 7th or 8th at Daytona. So it's all Justin Hill for me. Big fan of both those guys, but it's cool to see the resurgence of a very talented rider and a strong personality like Justin Hill.
How ballsy would it be if I picked him in the Supercross survivor pool and actually like pull that out? I would he even got a top 10 last weekend. Like that would have actually been a viable pick. No one was picking him though. All right. So for this next one, it's a little bit confusing because in order for Hardy to win this, he actually has to do badly in order to hurt everyone's fantasy team. If everyone's fantasy team does well, that actually means that Hardy does well. So I'll let you guys kind of fight this one out. I kind of like Seward, both of you, because this is a little bit confusing, but who wins, Hardy Munoz or everybody's fantasy team? Because yeah, honestly, this weekend in Daytona, Hardy Munoz could be an absolute grenade with the pin pull the entire time. Debo, you'll have the floor on this one.
Well, like you had said already, I didn't really know who was on your team positively last week, but I also had Hardy on my team, on my MXD 360 team. And so I struggled with that at one point. I thought I'd go happy meeting with my riders. I thought he could run again, and after that's a fantastic top 10 in the round before. So for my own benefit, I'm going to root against Hardy and go for I'm not really positive how the answer should be, but I hope Hardy doesn't do great because I don't want anyone else to benefit from him, since I did not benefit from him. So I'm selfish in this game, and I hope Hardy has a very healthy 22nd. What about you, Chicks?
Do you guys remember the Supercross LCQ? I believe it was 2 years ago, and there was like 3 red flags, and during one of them, the whole first lap, Hardy Munoz was dropping a rider in every single freaking corner.
He wore a
it was
black
one of the
helmet,
greatest
right?
things I've
helmet.
ever seen. And then they threw the red flag. I don't remember if he even made the main that night or not. The dude goes fast. He hangs it out. He's raced Daytona as an amateur, and I actually think that's a big benefit to these guys, because you ride it so fast that you have to ride it like an outdoor. And I think it just seems like the guys that have done that throughout their career, because not a lot of the amateur guys do it, it actually has benefited them as a pro. I'm worried about him making the main event. I feel like if Hardy makes the main event, for some reason, he's just got so much heart, he's going to keep going and finish. And a lot of the guys in the 250 class are they're going to crash and just stop after they crash. Hardy's going to stop, break his handlebars off, and hold on to his fork tube to finish the race if he has to, and still hold it wide open. So you confuse the crap out of me with the question. And honestly, Hardy's results are pretty confusing, because you never know what you're going to get other than a wide open throttle. But I'm going to go with Hardy Munoz is going to do well in Daytona. However, that makes my answer, Brad.
I can see Hardy Munoz going full like Mark Barnett, Magoo Chandler, goggles pulled down under his face mask, bars like bent down, like you just said, throttling it. Yeah, we've been talking about him since day one. He's just made a great story. From our draft leagues.
He's great television. I honestly, Supercross should be paying his way to the races, because it's nonstop.
I love the fact he's number 99. Just that he's right at the cusp
Wayne
of the
Gretzky.
3-digit. Yeah, it is just he's been a great story, and I wish the best for him. But if he gets a 22nd or doesn't qualify and sinks a lot of teams, I won't be too disappointed.
Fair enough. Next one on the docket, we've got the Battle of the Star Racing Yamaha rig, minus, of course, Hayden Deegan. He for some reason he didn't make it into the verses this week, but I'm sure he got lots of other coverage everywhere else under the sun. Jordan Smith, and it's Jordan Smith, by the way. There's 2 O's in his first name, very odd. Jordan Smith versus Nate Thrasher. Checks, I'll let you lead this one off.
It's been way better all year. Way more consistent all year. There's nothing to even argue here. It's going to be Nate Thrasher. It's even a freaking speedway track add on top of that, but it could be anywhere. It could be in the parking lot, and I'm picking Nate Thrasher because at least he's going to finish the race without falling down.
Yeah, I got Jordan Smith. I knew you were going Thrasher because you've been bummed on Jordan Smith all season, not completely, but you thought he'd crash, and he has crashed. but he's riding out of his ass. He's riding far better than I think anyone thought. Go ahead.
How fitting was it when you're watching the race coverage, if you watched it back at all, and all of a sudden you just see a Star Yamaha flip through the bottom of the screen with a lap to go, and you just know it's Jordan Smith because it's just Jordan Smith. And I got to say, like, I'm impressed with how he's riding this year. And I will let you finish the argument on this, Danny. I'm not at all putting down his riding, and I'm actually happy that he's doing something because he's doing better than I expected. So you can even say I'm wrong, but we know he's going to fall down, and because that's what he does. Go ahead.
He is. He's a spectacular crashes. He finds moments to. It is. I mean, but again, I'm so happy that he's found his niche. I was shocked and blown away, as we all were, I think, on our text thread when we got the word that Jordan had signed with Star. We've gone over it many times. Thrasher is kind of the future, while Jordan is kind of the twilight of it right now, unless he can find some success, as he has. He's right there in points. He's sixth right now with a third and a second thrown in with a crash again at the second East round in Tampa. But I think we're seeing some great things from Smith, and I think that a win for him is right around the corner. And I think we could find it in Daytona. Thrasher's known for that outdoor speed a little bit, at least at Daytona. But let's see Jordan Smith get out front, and let's not do something spectacular. Let's get out front and win this son of a bitch.
I love it. All right. This one's going to be kind of interesting because every single week rolling forward, this is whoever wins between these two guys is either going to give a point to one of you or point to the other guy. Josh Hill versus Benny Bloss rest of season. Every single round, these guys are going to be going head to head. They're basically right next to each other in points. Debo, I'll let you pick first. But yeah, this is going to be a rest of season Josh Hill versus Benny Bloss.
Well, I've yet to pick Josh for MXD 360, but every time I do pick Bloss, it's a yard sale and I get 0 points. So for me to pick Josh Hill, all I have to do is pick Bloss on my team, and I'm guaranteed that Josh Hill will do better because it's just been I've been on or off for actually both these guys. Hill didn't qualify for a couple rounds, and then went out and beat his brother in 2 of the 3, who was doing very well. Bloss, on the other hand, missed the main event the first weekend, crashed and busted his ass pretty good. I mean, literally hurt his tailbone when I say that. And then it's been a slow grind, 16th to 17th. He had a 12th last week. So like I said, I'm going to have to go with Josh Hill. He's a longtime friend of mine, big fan of what him and his brother are putting together. And I can't trust Benny Bloss for anything. So I actually have Bloss on my team this weekend, so I'm guaranteed this won't end well for Mr. Benny and that 44 YZ Rock River Yamaha. What about you, Chex?
Really interesting question, because I mean, I think you go Benny Bloss is more of the roller coaster guy. I mean, he's boom or bust for sure. He can crash out and be hurt, not show up, not make the main. He can crash out of the main. Can crash on the last lap of a main event all by himself and lose from
a top 10. You get a top 10 too.
And he can go the speed of a top 10 guy. He's legit good. He'll try to ride through injuries. He's on a great bike. Like I said, those new Yamahas look awesome. But Josh Hill is building. You can clearly see he found something that made him comfortable with his bike, and since then he's been a completely different rider. And maybe it was just a mental switch. Maybe he had to change things up. Whatever it is. I can't argue you that Benny Bloss is going to score ahead of Josh Hill more than Hill's going to beat him, because Bloss could crash out and be gone the rest of the season. It wouldn't be something we haven't seen before. I think that you see Josh Hill just continue to do what he's doing. He's having a blast. I think him and Justin will continue to hover around that kind of 10 to 12 range. And as guys start to drop out, they're going to move up a little bit, because I think both of them are riding well enough to stay finishing there, but not crazy enough to crash out. So I'm going Josh Hill as well. So you don't have to keep score for the rest of the year, Brad. We just went Josh Hill.
And I'm just one thing about
right, fair enough.
Benny is I watched a couple rounds ago. One of my good friends, Tammy Cole, came over, and she knows Benny very well. And we were just watching him, and I asked her like how tall is Benny? Like, she's like, man, he's like 6'5", and I just cannot imagine him that tall. I mean, he makes Pastrana look small, really, and he makes that 450 Yamaha look like he's riding a 250F 125 80. I mean, it's shocking. I can't imagine we've watched Ryan Lachine, that he was considered tall, but yeah, what Benny's doing, I mean, he makes, it's just crazy. I can't imagine being that tall, trying to make a motorcycle work underneath you, because the ergos are not built for someone that size. But again, he's done well. But again, Josh Hill at the end of the season will do the best.
The funny thing about Travis Pastrana is everyone always says that he is super tall, and yes, he looked super tall on a dirt bike. Travis Pastrana is 6'1". Like he's an inch taller than I am, and yeah, I look pretty big on a dirt bike too. But like he's not a giant of a man. It's just the fact that the majority of Supercross champions, Ricky Carmichael, Jeremy McGrath, James Stewart, Chad Reed, are all, even Cooper Webb, like they're not big guys at all. Like I don't think a single one of them is 5'9".
There's definitely some advantage, especially with the new chassis, to be a more compact rider.
Yes.
And you got to think, like, when I deal with like setup on chassis and stuff like that, just like watching guys, if you move back just an inch, the transfer of weight is so much, the leverage ratio is so much for a guy like Benny, that if he gets thrown off just a little bit, it's a much bigger change. And I'm guessing, honestly, is a lot of the reason that the crashes are being caused. Now, granted, he can soak stuff up, and that side of things that can be an advantage, but I do think it is a disadvantage to him. Denny, what were your thoughts?
Oh no, I was just going to agree with you 100%. You know, I was thinking to say the exact same thing. That
Really?
shockingly, yes. I mean, and you said it perfectly. Like I was thinking of it, and I'd said that during, you know, at a time it was very beneficial to have long legs, get to the whoops, and do stuff, and you could do things like Wyndham, but again, the separation of weight, or the distribution of weight, can be so dramatic when you're taller. Whereas Ricky was so compact on the bike where he could get kicked and he's still on top of the motorcycle without all that leverage. So yeah, I can't believe we finally agree on that. That is epic. You might want to write that down, maybe on a sign on the wall or something, calendar this, because that is something that we've never discussed ever before, and 100% agree upon. Yeah, and that again goes back to what I started saying. Benny Bloss at 6'4" has got to be just incredible, because a motorcycle is not meant for someone to ride that big, and he rides a show. That so when I picked Josh Hill, we both picked Josh Hill. That's no slam on Mr. Benny.
All right, guys. I can't stress this enough. Is I purposely asked you two to be on this show 6 weeks ago because I know you disagree on a lot of things, and I think you both need to start smartening up. And if you're going to continue to agree on things, I will only pick topics that I know that you differ on, so that you can call each other assholes and move on with the rest of your day. Please smarten up and act accordingly. Thank you very much. All right. So let's move on to our next sort of Daytona, bit of an open conversation portion of this. Let's start off with the 250s. I've got a question for each one of us. Yes, I'm even going to pose a question to myself and then I'm going to answer to myself. It's going to be lots of fun. Kicking things off with Debo. Give me a rider whose results will flourish because it's Daytona, baby.
Well, I'm going to go with Michael Mosiman. It's time for him to step up. It's a big track. It's an outdoor track. He definitely goes very fast outdoors. We've seen his speed. His flowing speed is very capable. I think we can see a top 3, maybe in a top 2, maybe in a win out of Michael this weekend. If he can get up front, run the pace. Sorry, I had a frog in my throat. I think that Michael Mosiman can pull his head off his ass, run some top 5s, run podium, and get up front this weekend. I think he's going to do very well. And I think that was a great question. I was going to go Thrasher, but it was too obvious. I think Mosiman is finally going to get start turning the page, and his season will definitely start flourishing, as you said, because of Daytona.
Now, checkers, who in the 250 class will struggle mightily because Daytona is a fickle mistress?
Well, first, can I point out that Denny, you want us to tell me that he's wrong? You don't pick Jeremy frickin' Martin, who kills it at Daytona, that is going to benefit for it? Or how about the world motocross champion named Tom Vial? Okay, just let those go right over your head, Denny. That's okay. You're going to go with the dude that's been pretty average all year. Okay, good luck with that. I wish you luck. But who's going to struggle? Well,
flourish.
I have to think that the rookies in general will struggle because it's such a weird and challenging racetrack, and you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And as soon as they do that, they're most likely going to end up on their heads. So if I have to pick one, I don't want to. I don't want to pick Hayden Deegan to struggle because I've really liked the story that he's building of just being a pretty solid guy. But I have to think that Daytona is going to be a little bit challenging. Is going to be some adversity for Hayden Deegan because he benefits from being so technically sound on a supercross track normally, and you can really get into the flow. And I think he's going to struggle worse than the rest of the rookies on that racetrack.
Do you think Hymas will do better than Deegan? not to interrupt, but yeah,
Yes.
Hymas over Deegan. Is that what you're telling me right now, Checkers?
I think so, because I think Hymas will continue to do exactly what he's been doing, which is be very solid and very strong. Also, remember, Hymas has an off-road background that he's been doing the past few years, racing those works races and stuff, which that is perfect practice for Daytona, of hitting terrain with square edges and unpredictable sandy crap. So I got to say that should benefit Hymas. I'm gonna go with that, and I hope I'm wrong. Like I said, I want the Deegan story to continue, because it is really cool to see that he's been really solid.
Yeah. Your head so
All right,
far.
so the next question is to Brad. Brad, who do you think will be unaffected by the outdoorsy speedway style track? Well, Brad, that's actually a very good question. I'm glad that you asked it. As my camera stops working, that's awesome. I have to switch over to my other camera that doesn't make me look nearly as good. I'm actually going to go with Chance Hymas. Checkers read my mind and possibly read the script for the set of questions that I already had written off leading into this. But I am going to go with Chance Hymas. I think that his approach to racing right now, he's very even keel. He takes what's given to him, and he doesn't push the racetrack whatsoever. So I'm going to go with Chance Hymas to basically continue status quo. Be somewhere in the top 7, top 8, and continue being consistent throughout this weekend. And I actually think that he'll probably be one of the better placing rookies for this particular event. I don't know if he beats Deegan, but I do expect both of them to be outside the top 5 just due to rookie mistakes in this Daytona and all that fun stuff. Moving over to 450s and Denny Stevenson. I got my crosshairs on you, my friend. This next question is aimed at you. Who will be unaffected in the 450 class rolling into Daytona? Who's just going to basically be who he is, no matter what the racetrack is?
I think that's going to be Tomac. I think that he, again, has had so much success, 6 wins. We talked about earlier how Webb really kind of came out of nowhere with it last year as well. I think Eli already knows that he's the best rider here. He owns it. If anyone can ever come into an event thinking that Ricky Carmichael or McGrath in an event, knowing that I'm better than everyone else, it's going to be Eli Tomac. He just knows how to win. He knows to get the job done. He knows the way the track breaks down. And I think even when you're behind somebody, I think he's just going to wait on his ass until they make a mistake, and he'll capitalize as he does. Because again, he's the only guy I know of that can drop 3 seconds on a lap. And when he needs to do it, he'll do it. And I think this will be the weekend when Webb maybe get out front and Eli just goes, fuck it, drops a hammer and eats him up and kind of tries to do his best to break Webb's spirits.
All right, I like it. Checkers, Daytona. It's a track that it can either help you or hurt you. Who is going to benefit from rolling into Daytona this weekend in the 450 class?
It's going to be not a rider. It's going to be riders. It's going to be Star Racing Yamaha. Here's the deal. They have a great motorcycle that's very stable. They have Eli Tomac, the winningest rider ever in Daytona Supercross history, who is as good as he's ever been this year. Then you bring in the national motocross champion not that long ago, who was having his best Supercross season. He's back on the racetrack. Dylan Ferrandis. I mean, he's back on the track. He's going to do better than he's been doing when he hasn't been there, and he's going to be really good. And then give me Justin Cooper to be considerably strong at just being consistent, lap in and lap out, getting through the rough stuff. He knows outdoors. He knows Supercross. He's been fantastic on the 450. Give me the Star Racing Yamaha team as a whole to flourish in Daytona. I think that there's a very good chance you see all 3 of those guys in the top 10 at the end of the night. And most likely you'll see probably top 6. I would say you'll see 2 of them.
I like it. All right. So Brad, I got another question for you. It's a great question. I think that you'll like it. Brad, who will struggle mightily in the 450 class due to the fact that Daytona can be very challenging at times? Well, it's a good question, Brad. I appreciate you asking it. I'll give you the best answer that I can come up with on this particular day. I think this track definitely does not suit the smooth style of a Colt Nichols. Colt Nichols is a great West Coast Supercross guy. I think that's where his strengths lie, in those sort of hard pack conditions where you're struggling to get traction and stuff like that. And you have to be very precise with your motorcycle. And not that you don't have to be precise at Daytona, but it's a track that really benefits somebody who can kind of hang it out and bounce off of stuff and kind of take what the track is giving you. And I don't know that completely falls within Colt Nichols' skill set, or at least what his strengths are. So I would say that he's been struggling lately, and that doesn't get fixed this weekend at Daytona. I have him outside my top 5. In fact, could be outside the top 12 if things really don't go his way. That's a great answer, Brad. I appreciate you giving your input on that. So let's move over to the contenders. Let's talk about some guys who are contend for both wins and championships the rest of the year. Checkers, I'm going to let you answer this one first. Give me your top 2 contenders in all 3 championships for the rest of the season.
All right. Well, I had to pull the points up just to verify, just to kind of make sure that I'm on pace here with the 250 West. You got to go, obviously, points leader Jet Lawrence. I mean, that's going to be in all of them. You're going to go with points leader, I would assume. And the other guy who's going to be his biggest challenger right now, Hampshire, sits second in points. I still think McAdoo's more consistent, more solid, and more of a threat, especially after this break when he's going to be more healthy. So I'm going to go Jet Lawrence and Cameron McAdoo for the 250 West. 250 East, Hunter Lawrence and Nate Thrasher. Thrasher's got the speed on everybody else in the class. He's down some points, but he's the guy. And then the 450s, you
gotta
taking
pick
only
2.
2, huh? Well, I mean, my title contender is Chase Sexton, and I'm not backing down from that, especially as he continues to be the fastest guy. And at the end of the day, speed wins championships, and Tomac also is the next fastest guy, and he also has the consistency, the tenacity, and all the wins to go along with it. So those are my guys. I'm going to drop out Cooper Webb, but I think that stays a 3-rider fight. So your question is kind of not very good.
That's what makes it's a tough question. What makes it a good question. Debo, I'll let you take that one next.
What, the one that we just went through right there?
Yes, I want your top 2 in every class.
Well, I go with Jet. I'm going to go with Cameron. Again, like Checkers. I think in the West or the East, I think it's going to be Hunter again. But I'm going to go with Jordan Smith. I think Jordan Smith's going to start getting faster and faster. I think Thrasher is going to keep building upon things. But I think you're going to have one big grenade from him where it's going to take him out of the points chase, similar to what Jordan's already done. And for the 450, Tomac's been my guy since day one and this for the 2023. And Sexton was originally my guy, but I'm going to drop Chase out and move Cooper Webb into that number 2 spot. I think that the Chase is learning still, and when it's going to come down to mental strength, that those 2 got him beat, and it's going to be a 2-rider battle between the number 1, which is the 3, and the number 2. So I think it's just going to get better as these races start clicking off.
Fair enough. I'll weigh in quickly on this one. I'm going to go with Jet and Cameron on the West. Those 2 are just, I think they're the class of the field. And Cameron, a little bit of a wild card, but he does keep it on 2 wheels often enough to probably get second in that championship. 250 East, it's got to be Thrasher. It's got to be Hunter. Those are the only 2 guys that have really been in contention for a win. Both, I don't see, I don't like, at this point, Jordan Smith is too many points down. I think he's 20 points down after 3 rounds. He would have to do some serious winning and even get some help from his teammate in the way of a bad finish. That 8 points that he got at round 2, I think it was round 2, really hurt his chances for the championship. And then for the 450 class, give me Webb, give me Eli Tomac. We've seen plenty of crashes from Chase Sexton. We haven't seen a big one yet, and I don't want to wish anything bad on anybody. But if he has a bad one, he could exit stage right for this championship right quick. Debo, who won't contend for championships the rest of the season, but will contend for wins?
It's a good question. Well, I think we spoke about it earlier. Jason Anderson is definitely out of this title hunt, but he seemed to be kind of forming, gelling with the bike a little bit better. Whatever he was mentally struggling with at the beginning of the season that was holding him back. I had heard he came in a little sick. I heard he came in, had gotten a little COVID, and maybe he was feeling some of the effects of that. Whether or not that's true or not, or that's just a rumor and excuse, I don't know. But I think the El Hombre, you don't come off of 7 wins as he did under the radar. His interviews are not quite as jovial. I see the frustration a bit in his eyes, but he's too fast, too talented, and he's going to come out. I think he's got at least 3 wins under his belt. He has none so far this season, but I see the El Hombre, number 21, Monster Energy Kawasaki, Jason Anderson with 3 wins by the end of the season, but no chance at a title.
What say you, Checkers?
Well, I mean, I think you got to put Anderson on the potential winner list because he's the only one that's really shown to consistently have some of the speed. He just doesn't maybe have the luck to be in there. I don't think he gets three that Denny's at, just because the championship guys, when you have three contenders so good, they see it tend to rise to the top at the end of the year. I think the only other guy I see that could potentially come in and get a 450 Supercross win, if Jet Lawrence doesn't get a ride one, which it doesn't look like he's going to, is potentially Dylan Ferrandis. Honestly, he was really, really good to start this season off and consistent, and his starts were slightly better. I think that he maybe could figure out something to magically have a night where he just gets a start and pulls one off, because he does have a lot of speed. I don't see Barsha getting a win. I don't see Roxon getting a win. I do see Plessinger being on the podium a couple more times, and he has made a step up, but I don't think he's ready to win races yet. So that's for those guys. You got to say that RJ Hampshire can win races out on the West. I mean, he's faster than all get out. I still think you very well might find Hayden Deegan winning a race this year. I really do. You never know, if he nails a start and he has some speed, he's learning so quickly. So I think on that side, you could say him. Other than that, title contenders, I mean, you could say Jordan Smith, but it takes him putting a whole race together. If he does it, he can do it, but it's going to be 1 out of 10 that he puts together, I guess. So those are my only guys.
Can Max Anstie get a win?
I don't think so. I would love to see it. I think it would be amazing if he did. I would love to see it, but I think that you're starting to, again, I talk about it all the time. You notice the difference between the factory guys and the not factory guys. The consistency to be there every week starts to fall off, and we're seeing it a little bit with Max Anstie. I mean, it started off real hot, and it's still good. He's having a fantastic year, and I know that a guy like Mitch Payton would take him in a heartbeat to have that year right now of those results that he's having on his team instead. But I don't think he's going to win a race now.
All right, fair enough. Appreciate the feedback, boys. I'll go to checkers on this one first. Who has been the most impressive privateer in the 250 class this year? East Coast.
With 250 East, I mean, I guess you got to define privateer, because I mean, there's some people that would say that Max Anstie's a privateer, but I wouldn't put him in that realm.
Excluding the satellite teams,
exclude the Phoenix Honda guys like Jay Sowen, for instance. Yes. I mean, he's been very good. Well, then we got to start digging. Danny, if you have one you want to fire off while I'm doing some digging, go for it. But
Jeremy Hand's been riding well. He's kind of flies under the radar, always does. He's had some great outdoor results, playing the game and running MXD 360. You definitely get a chance to see these guys' names and track them. And I'm just looking at his results from Arlington, and he banged out a 2/16 and a 5th for 15th overall. And as far as I'm concerned, he is probably the most true privateer out there. Even Henry Miller's been riding really well. But I think it's a little bit more of a stronger ride, but Henry's been riding really well as well. But I think Han is kind of finally coming into his own in Supercross. I don't know. I know he's kind of struggled a little bit in the past, but it's nice to see him out there, and he's killing it on a Valley Ford truck, Dean Hushin insulation Honda. So Mantua, Ohio, number 91. So I'm really stoked to Jeremy Hand for right now.
Yeah, nice pull with Hand. Definitely have to mention Luke Neese. He was in all 3 main events, and he's on a very similar program as well to Hand as a full privateer. And then the other one I was going to pull up that I'd actually had in my mind when I first read the question was Henry Miller. He's been 13, 14, 12 in the main events. He's a solid veteran guy. It's a privateer program. Very privateer program. I mean, it looks great from the outside, but it's still definitely a budget deal. And he's been really, really solid and strong. So shout out to Henry Miller. Plus, he just sent us a jersey in the mail. So got a smile.
I like it. I was going to go with Miller myself. It's time, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for him to get on his soapbox and let us know what he's learned for those many years of contending for championships in the amateur ranks, the professional ranks, and even banging fibulas in the barns of Arena Cross throughout the 90s and early 2000s. Denny Stevenson, it's time to debate with Debo.
What do you got?
Debo, have 4-strokes changed the timeline in which people turn pro and eventually hang up the boots? Maybe it's just this era, but it seems like guys are turning pro later than later and staying at the track longer and longer, given guys that are contending for championships way older in age than they did only even just 10 years ago. Is it still realistic for a 16-year-old to turn pro on a 250F compared to 125s back in your day?
That's a great question. I mean, it's even hard to answer because it is so in depth that we could talk about it for 30 minutes. I think there's no doubt that I think the 450 is completely overshot the CCs. Nobody imagined that they're going to make these things run like 500 cc motorcycles with over 60 horsepower. Supercrosses aren't meant for them. 450 you can't race in arena cross. I don't know if it's extended riders' careers as much as the health levels and the conditioning. And as we've seen in every professional sport, the riders are bigger, stronger. Nothing to take away from guys like Jeff Ward, Johnny O'Mara, Mark Barnett, who definitely trained their asses off. It's just more of a science now. I think that's what allowing these guys to race longer. To see a 16-year-old pop off on a 250F, God, it's such a big step. I mean, what a shame that these manufacturers haven't been living with 125 two-strokes. Can you imagine how many they'd be selling to these kids to have be able to race? I mean, obviously 125s are on still the amateur level, but it's a big step. I can't imagine going from an 85 to a 250F to a 42 horsepower, 45 horsepower motorcycle. Until we see a kid start coming up again, like James or Ricky or even Jet, he came real close, but now that these supercross guys can stand it longer, there's really no point out rule. These 16-year-old kids are going to be banging bars with 30-year-old guys with beards and 2 kids and a wife. So it's a bummer. It's great to see the longevity of these riders, but it's gaggling all these guys up in the 250 class because 450 riders are staying so much longer, which is fantastic. I'm so stoked that Eli's going to ride outdoors for next year, possibly go to the Nations and back up his title win. But it's also not allowing as much talent up into the 450 class because they're stuck in the 250. I don't know. It's just a different sport altogether. Obviously, I grew up in the 90s. I'm pretty famous for yelling at kids to get off my lawn, and that I walked uphill both ways in the snow. I'm just enjoying the sport the way it is. Again, I'm not happy with the 450s at all. I think we should go back to 175 and a 350 if possible. But as Checkers said, no chance of that. So we'll just keep watching and enjoying it.
Checkers, were you going to chime in there and talk about how hot Jordan Smith's wife is?
Ooh, I need to check her out. I haven't seen.
She is an absolute smoke show.
I'm going to give a rating. We gotta look, and I only speak in facts on this show, so I have to check that out to give you a fact answer.
It's really nice.
But I just wanted to touch on the fact, a lot of times people talk about the success of this Pro Circuit Kawasaki program being linked to the engine builder that was amazing that they had behind the scenes. But I want to talk about the Team Green program, and they've had some of the gnarliest dudes coming up through their program. Guys like Ryder D that's going through it right now, Jet Reynolds.
Yep.
I'm drawing a blank on people, but
Les Kobush,
Adam Cianciarulo, guys that are coming up, and they graduate super minis as the hottest kid in they're destroying everyone, and time after time. Guess what? They jump on a 250F and they're getting hurt, and they're getting hurt, and they're getting hurt. You cannot recover from those injuries a lot of times. While everyone else, that's a very crucial point in your career where you gain a ton of speed and you're gradually getting better and you're growing as a human being, going from boy strength to man strength. And if you're constantly broken, you're not in the gym, you're not working out, you're falling behind, and you're mentally falling behind at a mentally fragile spot in your career too. I truthfully think that the Kawasaki Team Green program is struggling to graduate riders into Mitch's truck to be successful like they've done so well in the past, because they don't have a 125 program, and those kids are constantly getting hurt because they're not going to go slow on a 250F. And the fact is, they can go just as fast as anyone. They can move off a super mini and go win the freaking A class pretty much right away speed wise. But you know what they can't do? When the bike swaps sideways, they don't have the man strength to put the thing back under them. They're on their heads. The injuries start piling up. And that is just one spotlight on a program. So I do think that the 250F has pushed pro careers starting later before success. I don't know if necessarily the 4 strokes have made it longer, but that's something I feel really strongly about, that every rider should be going from a super mini onto a 125 for a good year to build some man strength up before you get onto that 250F.
And again,
I think the biggest contributor to having long careers is the fact that these guys aren't making the same kind of money as they were back in the day. Like, they need to work, they need to race longer to make the same amount of money that guys made 15 years ago. they have to race longer. That's just the way it is. You get like exceptions like Brayton, who I think just genuinely loves it. But I would say that Ricky Carmichael made more before the age of 27 than most of these guys have, like, hitting 30, 31 years old.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with the longevity due to desperation for a salary. I liked this aspect. I was a hit on the Checkers talk about the man strength thing. That was something
Definitely.
that I'd mentioned Brian Deegan about a couple of times, knowing him over the years and asking his opinion with Hayden, where's he at? What's going on? Kind of picking his brain. And that's something he reiterated multiple times is that man strength. And Checkers, again, I hate when we agree, but these kids can definitely get on a bike and go fast. I remember being, 13, 14, riding 125s and 2D locally. But I also remember when that bike did something I couldn't do. It was hard to bring it back. And that's, you double in the CCs. That's a great point. And very interesting. And yeah, man strength. And these are big boy bikes. And I think that this 4V class has become more premier, that these guys are getting older and getting stronger, and coming into their own longer in their career. It's even a bigger step from the 2D class now into the 450 than it was from 125 to 250, because the bikes are so much gnarlier. Tracks are so much faster. I think it takes longer to your career to get stronger, as they have, as in every sport. People aren't retiring in their late 20s. They're retiring in their 30s, mid 30s these days. In all professional sports, we're seeing it with LeBron James, his longevity in the basket and NBA, and even NASCAR. Just people are figuring out their bodies and making themselves stronger, wiser as they get older, instead of breaking down.
Absolutely. And then on top of that, like, you think of like a marathon runner or a Ironman athlete, which motocross is as physically challenging a sport as you can possibly have. And the prime of those careers is in your late 20s, early 30s. And we're seeing that with guys like Eli Tomac, Jason Anderson, honestly, even like Cooper Webb's entering that. It's going to be a young man's game because of the injuries that pile up. But on a strength standpoint and just the pure athleticism side of things, if you can sustain yourself and continue to be at the pinnacle of your game, a man's athletic peak is right in through their late 20s, early 30s. And that's where we see where these contenders are at right now.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, well said.
I like it. All right, guys, it's time to dream on, a segment that is based basically specifically in the fantasy game that we have. We have some, like, we each picked 6 riders for the 450 class, and 4 riders for the 450 class, 3 riders for the 250s, and on either coast. At one point, Checkers had to completely redesign his 250 East. I've had to do some of that myself. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Checkers, you were doing some overhauling before that series even started, correct?
It has been an absolute nightmare. I'm going to actually pull up our
just our spreadsheet. Checkers team. I didn't realize there were that many colors in
red
on Excel, because he's had to replace Malcolm Stewart. He had to replace Muskin. He's now had to replace Cian Cirillo. He's had to replace Ferrandis. It's just gone over and over with injuries. And then you spoke of the 2 of the East there on this game we're playing, this draft game with Brad's team. He had to replace his entire 2 of the East team before the season even started. He had to replace Hammaker. He had to replace Shimoda. He had to replace Marchbanks. It really just shows how gnarly, like we talked about just a minute ago, how gnarly this sport is, how physical it is. And it takes these little guys years and years to kind of get their shit together. And I'm going to say it once again. I have no red in my and I'm probably going to punish myself. I have no red in my spreadsheet. No one's gotten hurt, knock on wood. I am totally screwed from the rest of the season, but we are redrafting after this round of Daytona. We're doing into a new team for next week, which we'll go through as well. But I have to tell you,
we're going to do that live on the show as well.
Oh, yeah, awesome. So I won 5 out of 7 rounds so far. It's been a thorough beatdown, but it's been a lot of luck and staying injury free. So I've been the complete opposite of Mitch Payson Pro Circuit team. I am the pinnacle. If you can look at 2 opposite spectrums, I'm the one with all the cleared, no red, and doing very well.
Yeah. So I'll get first draft pick. I have the series standings up on the screen. 761 points to 874. I got a long ways to catch up, Denny, but baby, I get first draft pick and the freight train's coming. And if not, that means that whatever riders I pick, I'm so sorry, because it means your year's probably over, because yeah, I've had a worse year than Mitch Payton, I think.
Yeah. I have one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. You're actually closer to me than I am to Denny. So yeah, you have a long way to go, but so do I.
Yeah, it's been a struggle, but it's been a lot of fun, and just in learning to play it. And that's what Denny does, man. He comes up with all these fun games, and I encourage you guys, to ask him, about the format of these draft games, and he'll give you the formula, I'm sure, so you can do it with your buddies, and it's a ton of fun. And just, follow along with us. I just pray that I can keep some guys healthy, because it's not just this one. I'm in another draft league, and I was joking coming into it when we did this. I've never lost one of these before, and I have over 50%, almost 60% of my riders have been injured and have replacements. And now I'm to the point where I'm having replacements for my replacements. Which, speaking of, is Savachi in for this weekend? Did we find out, or do I have to replace?
I don't think so.
Too?
I know. I thought he was. According to Racer X's injury report, he said that he's banged up, but he'll be riding. So I think the only person that's would to be determined is AC. And I think we just got a report at the last minute before the show that AC is out, but Ferrandis is in. Savachi should be in. There was no word. I think Bloss, Checkers, you thought he had crashed or something, but I kind of asked on that, and he's fine.
His result was pretty good. So I guess I was probably just wrong, and I just got the rounds mixed up of when Bloss crashed and potentially was hurt.
So yeah, if you're into fantasy football and drafting leagues like you do on ESPN, this is a game I came up with that's very similar. And if you have any interest at all, you can always hit me up at mxt360.com or any social media, because I'd love to give you the rules and for you guys to get together with some of your buddies and do it. It's a good time and something different. It's simple. There's no salaries, or you just you lay them out, and guys, you pick a team. And when your riders get hurt, which I've had to kind of bend the rules of trying to figure out, because I wasn't expecting these riders to get hurt. So, but enough of that. Let's dive into this MXD 360 chaos.
MXD360.com. If you're not already playing, you should be. Enter. You can win a set of the King's gear, and then you probably have a chance to beat me, even though we are 7 rounds into this already. I am currently 23rd out of 23 entrants into the BigMX Radio League. I hang my head in shame. I would hang it lower, otherwise I wouldn't be able to read my monitor, letting you guys know that let's give it a quick overview of the game. So you get 8 riders, 4 in each class, and you have salaries. You have a total $3.5 million salary to disperse among those 8 riders. You need to have you don't have to spend all your money, but you have to have minimum 8 riders selected, and you can't go over. Obviously, when you go in there, you'll notice that there's some guys who are very expensive, but those are the guys who could possibly win races, and you're going to get the points for those riders. So if say a guy, Eli Tomac, you pick him, he's super expensive, he wins the race, you get 26 points. But if you happen to pick, say, a guy like, give you an example, like Jace Owen this weekend in the 250 class, he's selected on my screen, and he's going to be on the team. If he places 10th or better, he actually receives an extra 10-point bonus for his race this weekend. So that would be really, really awesome to see whether or not he gets inside the top 10. He's actually a guy who I think could possibly be in the top 10. In fact, I think there's at least 2 or 3 on this line right now that could possibly be inside that top 10 in the 250 class and pay off for some people. So fingers crossed for that. I think even a guy like Talon Hawkins would be a really good pick for that. So if a guy in red does not get top 10, he doesn't get that bonus. You still get the points that he has for that. And that's why I got 1 point for Hardy Munoz when he got dead last. If he got 1 point on the weekend, you got 1 point for your team. Total it all up, and you probably have more points than I have for the weekend. But yeah, so that's how to play MXD 360.
Keep in mind, you also can't pick riders back-to-back weekends. So
yes,
on my screen that I'm sharing with all the salary lists and stuff, if they have a red X around them, those were the guys that helped me kick these guys' butts last weekend. So thank you, Nate Thrasher, Chris Zombie Blows, Jordan Smith, and the cat, AJ Catanzaro.
Yeah, last week was pretty easy. We knew what all 22 riders were in the main event. I picked a horrible weekend. Well, I'll say it again, to go out of town and watch a race live, because it's while you're trying to have a good time with your buddies, you're trying to figure out your whether or not who qualified, who didn't, get your team hired. I got my ass handed to me once again. Yeah, it was not good.
I kicked your ass from Mexico, and I went with my Thursday team.
Yeah, well, that's good job, because and now it's shocking, because to know all 22 riders are in, that's usually a gimme, and usually helps out a lot of guys. But you got to pay attention usually. But how many times we said, Checkers, your Thursday team will probably end up being better, because once you start getting sucked into that qualifying time haul, it's hard to get out of it, because then you're chasing numbers. You're going for guys that you're like, oh yeah, he qualified 7th. How many times the guy qualified 7th actually finished top 10 when he's hot? I can't get in a rhythm. I've been getting my ass handed to me week in, week out. I'm 111th overall. It's the worst I've ever done, and I'm shocked by it. I have no answers, no words. So it's not an easy game at all. It's not. You got, and the worst part, or the biggest thing is, you can't just change one rider and dive into another rider. Like, you have to make some shit happen, change it around. I loved that salary aspect. It's all based on their points. Yeah, if they're winning races, as Hunter Lawrence, $853,000, he's won all but one round, and you have to pay for those 26 points. But when your highest salary guy is, which I've tried, let's go for him. That'll be the weekend that Hunter gets a third. So you got to get in a rhythm. You got to find where these guys are flowing. And I sent out a cheat sheet when you play. Each week they'll have the qualifying order and their per race score. So we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. So in the BigMX Radio League standings right now, Checkers currently sits 13th, which is essentially mid-pack, 77th overall in the series. It's actually pretty cool that we have the current leader she's leading the series, as well as she's leading our game, like the whole website, and she's leading the BigMX Radio series. So it's cool to have the star of the whole website in my league right now. Debo is sitting 16th and 111th overall currently, pulling up the Grant Langston number. There's a couple other guys that ran triple one as well. And then there's me, 23rd out of 23, 167th overall in the year. I am struggling mightily. I don't even know if I should really weigh in on this particular weekend, but I can give you guys some quick overview of Checkers' team last weekend. He was the tops. He was the best and he was very consistent. We had Christian Craig in the 450 class, 25 points for you. Justin Barsha, 16 points. Dean Wilson, 12 points, and then Josh Hill with 10. He stayed like over 10 points in every single, all his picks except for one. Nate Thrasher ended up with 26 points. He was your winner. Michael Blows ended up paying off with that bonus. So he would have had 14 points, but because of the bonus, he had 24 points. And Jordan Smith ended up second on the weekend, right behind his teammate. So he got 23. That's a huge score right there, basically averaging 25 points through 5 different picks. That's unreal. He got stung by AJ Catanzaro, but when you have that many good guys on your team, bad things are going to happen to you for that reason, just to have the motocross gods sort of getting even with you. Chris, you must have been pretty happy with that.
No, I was stoked, but I didn't get stung because Catanzaro was super, super cheap and was really almost a filler of a rider. And the only reason I put him on my team is I knew I was going to be gone. And I knew he would go fast enough to get in at a Triple Crown because he qualifies so well. I'm happy with 4 points because I figured he would ride around, get 22nd, and not even maybe ride the second and third races because he's not racing for results. He's racing because I don't know, it's good for his brand, I guess. So yeah, I mean, I was extremely happy to have Craig and Blows both hit the bonus was huge. And really, Christian Craig has been the last few weeks kind of the swinger on the list because
I didn't know he was a swinger.
Not like that, but because of him having hot status, this is going downhill really quickly because he has the chance at a 10-point bonus if he gets top 10 and he's capable of getting top 10. He is
I think I see a beat of sweat.
So I think I was top 10 overall last week. So I was stoked when I saw that, when I logged on and saw that, but more happy that I kicked Denny's butt. Honestly, that's all that really matters to me.
I love it. All right, Debo's team. We had AP 17 points. Justin Hill, he gets 10th and the bonus. He gets 23 points on the night. He had Wilson, and then he had Chiz with 12 and 7 points, respectively. His 250 team was Ansty. Chris Blows, who again, like I said earlier, had that bonus. Cullen Park, and very much like myself, he had Hardy Munoz, who just was an absolute heartbreaker. Like you must have had tears in your beers late at night on in Dallas there, Debo.
I was honestly celebrating a birthday with my buddy Cody Gilmore, our friend. So I was I picked my team kind of last minute. I was just enjoying the show, and I knew that I better get a team in real quick because I didn't get a chance to do the show last week. And I thought I was pretty good. I was pretty consistent. I wanted to go middle guys. I got a couple of top 10 guys, but when one of your guys it was a 22nd, it's a kick in the nuts. And that was kind of the case that happened to me. But this week I'm pretty happy with my team. I'm always really happy for my team. I'm pretty rarely going to a night going, oh man, I'm going to suck. I'm leading this show off tonight with Jordan Smith, who we've talked about a lot. Tom Viale, which we haven't really talked a lot, who has actually been riding very well and getting better each week. I think obviously we're seeing how well he is as a two-time world champion. I also have Talon Hawkins on, who I think has been kind of the cusp top 10 guy going to Daytona. Again, we've talked about the rookie struggle a little bit. I think Talon will kind of turn things around. He has a couple outdoor nationals under his belt already. Jeremy Hand is, again, someone I talked about as far as being a private two, rode really well. I have him looking like he's going to get possibly, I'm hoping for a top 15. I would be happy, or at the 160,000 mark. Christian Craig, the swinging guy, apparently. I have him as well. I'm really hoping for a top 10. He's shooting into that right now. I'm actually hoping for a top 5. RJ Hampshire, I made him as expensive as I really thought it would kind of hopefully deter people, because I don't want, a 95 percentile trending, but he's at a great price. Could be hit or miss. When these guys do make a mistake, they could call tonight and say, screw it, we're going to focus on the TD class, where everything goes really well, and you hit a bunch of points. I've been playing this game as long as I have. I've benefited and gotten crushed both ways. Colt Nichols, he's another hot guy. I'm kind of shooting for stars right now. I need to make up points. So I have a full hot 450 class. And then Benny Bloss is rounding out my 450 team. So shit, it could go either way with him. So I need to desperately make up some points. I have 6 out of 8 riders looking for the 10-point bonus. I'm swinging for the fences. I'm going for home runs all day.
All right, so I'll just roll through my team really quickly, because nobody should take advice from me. I'm just telling you who's going to break my heart this weekend. Chris Blows. I'm basically full red. Don't adjust your screens. It's Chris Blows, Jace Owen, Talon Hawkins, and Caden Braswell. Please do well, Caden Braswell. Jason Anderson, Christian Craig, the swinger himself, Richard Hampshire, and Cade Clayson. Checkers, can you give us a team that's actually going to do well this weekend?
Well, I couldn't even keep up with your picks to show everyone, so we'll just take more time on mine about how great I am. But I already have my team picked. It'll probably stay because I've been having good luck with it staying. But here's the deal. I'm looking at the 250 class, and if I go to a Jeremy Martin, who is a killer at Daytona, he is way down the salary list. Like, heck yeah, I'm good. I'm not even bummed I can't get Chris Blows, because he's not an outdoor guy. So Daytona is going to be tough for him. I think you definitely want to look at Jordan Smith. He's red on my screen. I can't pick him. You can look at Tom Vial. I think that he's good with his GP stuff. We've talked about that. But give me a chance, Hymas. He's been so dang consistent, and he's the cheapest non-hot rider. And then, I don't know if you guys remember, but 2 years ago, Cody Schock was absolutely ripping at Daytona. It really put his name on the Supercross map and not just the motocross map. I think he could easily be a top 10 guy. I was a little bit between him and Henry Miller. Henry Miller shreds in the sand and is a way better outdoor rider than Supercross rider. And he has been between 12 and 14 at all 3 rounds. So definitely, if you can afford it, you might want to look at a Henry Miller. So what I actually went through and did is I picked my 3 250 guys up here first, and then I went over to my 450s because I didn't know how much money I was going to have left. You can definitely look at a guy like Caden Braswell. Jeremy Hand is also, we talked about him earlier. He is a fantastic outdoor rider. I'd say he's better outdoors than Supercross even, and he's been having a great year. I would avoid guys like Michael Hicks. He's a arena cross guy, really good Supercross guy, not much of an outdoor rider. I don't know if you want to roll the dice with a Hardy Munoz, but you could do that. Definitely the 2 rookies over here are pretty attractive as well. Right now I have selected on my screen Josiah Notsky because he's very cheap. I know he's good outdoors. He's been fairly fast in Supercross. That would be the one pick that would change after practice, which, as we've talked about, if you change one pick, it destroys your dang team. I would also strongly recommend staying away from AJ Catanzaro. He will be fast and flashy in practice for sure. He was a year ago. I think he qualified like 9th and didn't even make the main event. He's not one to really dig deep when it comes to that side of things. But the only other
been in
guy,
Florida though.
yeah, but he's not an outdoor guy at all. He doesn't ride outdoors. So one other guy I want to talk about is keep an eye on Aiden Shive. He is really fast. He's from Florida.
Yes.
He's been riding with some good guys. I think that he could potentially surprise. And if you want, I mean, the guy that's probably broken the most hearts in fantasy this year has been Jack Chambers, as he hasn't made a single main event, I don't believe. And people had him pretty high on the list. So my 250 team right now, J-Mart, Hymas, Shock, and Notsky. And then we're going to go over to the 450s. And I mean, I think I found a lot of value here. I think.
What do you think of Norin?
So I actually had Norin selected at one point on my team.
Yeah.
He is a fantastic outdoor rider. If he makes the main event, he's going to finish the main event and do well. He's super cheap.
Ooh,
so
yeah,
he's actually down here. He was on the very first draft of my team.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I just found some value. I just found some value on my team. Thanks, boys.
Yeah. I
did
as well.
Cade, you're off. And I'm going to take Cade off and Braswell off. Switch that for Norin and Hand, and I actually might win. I've been saying that every time so far this year, but I actually might win this time.
So Brad already changed his Thursday team and then said he was going to win. Mistakes number 1 and 2. So looking at this 450 list,
I got $1,000 left over.
$1,000.
If you look, the difference between the salary of Jason Anderson and Chase Sexton, which all three of these guys are super expensive, is a lot of money to hire another really good guy. And I look at it as the points from Jason Anderson to one of these three expensive guys is most likely going to be 1 or 2 points. And if I spend that money down below, I'll be able to make up 4 or 5 points potentially. So that's why I went to Jason Anderson to start off my 450s. Plessinger's been good at Daytona before. He's been having a great year. I think he'll get me solid points. And also, because I have these red X's here, the salary list starts to really drop. I'm not going Ken Roxon with the bike struggles he's had, going somewhere crazy to date like Daytona. And then you look at RJ Hampshire. I mean, he's a crapshoot. He's only in it for the series. So if things go bad, it could go real bad. I do like Justin Cooper. I talked about earlier how I think he's going to be really solid. He's good indoors and out. But then I look at it, I have to go Dylan Ferrandis, even though he's coming off of an injury. I think he's super underpriced for where he's at. I mean, he was in the 4th and 5th range when he was starting the series. He's a great outdoor rider. He should be good at Daytona. And then again, I have another hole here because Marvin's out, Malcolm's out, Savachi. I'm not.
There's a whole line
injured. Justin Hill, I'm not hiring at Daytona. I can't pick Dino, who I do think is a good value being at Daytona. So I started digging, and then I can't have Josh Hill, and I'm never picking Benny Bloss at Daytona. So I slid McElrath in there, and I think that could be a sneaky good pick, honestly, because I think he'll make the main event and he'll do the laps.
Bloss, yeah, he's good. He's good.
But then, you start looking down the list. Starling is barely able to even hold on to his motorcycle right now. He's hurt. Moran's is going to try his hardest no matter what. I questioned the privateer setup thing at Loretta's a little bit, just getting the bike dialed in. Kyle Chisholm's been banged up, but he's a guy you should definitely consider because he's going to do all the laps, although he's also banged up. I don't know about Cartwright in a Daytona situation. I have to look back and do some research on him maybe. Cade Clayson's not really a Daytona guy either. He's a supercross guy. He's not an outdoor guy. We talked about Fast Freddy a little bit. Keep an eye on John
better
Short.
off picking Ronnie Stewart.
I would also look at John Short for sure. Absolutely. He is a rough and tumble outdoor guy.
Short's a good pick.
So
Carlin too, honestly.
Oh, stay away from Logan Carr now. Sorry, Logan. I'm glad you made the main last weekend. I love you, but there's 2 things. No one hates Daytona more than Logan Carr now. He hates outdoors. He hates Daytona. And chances are he might even be at Razzles on Friday night before the race. He might leave when the sun comes up to head to the track with Josh Hill. So I would just stay away from both of those guys. Daytona is pretty tempting for them to go have a really, really good time. So that's, that sets up my team. I think, there might be some shifting around, but J-Mart, Hymas, Shock, Notsky, I feel like can all get me solid points. If I get 3 or 4 from Notsky at 40 grand. That's a good. And then Anderson, Plessinger, Ferrandis, McElrath. That's a heavy hitting 450 lineup. That will be my team for Daytona.
That'll be the team that beats me again this weekend. Boys, this has been so much fun. We try and keep this show to an hour and a half. We failed miserably at that. But this was so much fun. It was awesome conversation. The three of us really hit our stride this evening, I thought. And thanks to everybody who watched on YouTube. I love to see the comments, every single one of those guys, whether it's Ian or Mikey or whoever else. The Mike's in there. Yeah, great to see Mark and everybody else in the and Grant in the comments doing their thing. It was a lot of fun this evening. Let's do it again this time next week.
Thanks you guys for having me. And just congratulations to Trisha Bowden, T-Ready 921, out front, leading the pack. Congratulations.
Yes.
She's running the red plate, bringing it to Daytona on MXD 360. So well done, Trisha. And again, thanks you guys for having me.
For Checkers, for Brad, and for Debo, thanks for joining us. Last thing from you, Checkers.
Just read the board. Go Hardy, baby. Make it a party. Just put on a show for us in Daytona. Knock some people down. Make it exciting. Let's go.
It's going to be a Hardy.